Ladies and gentlemen, welcome back to the show. This is Our Take. We are your hosts. My name is Ocean.
I'm Taylor.
And today, ladies and gentlemen, we are going to bring to you our take on the movie titled A Man Called Otto. If you guys watched our top 10 movies of 2022, which you should definitely check out, but in the beginning of that episode, we talked about some movies that had we had a chance to watch them, it may have made it on our list. This, for me, was one of those movies. This movie, its release date was kind of shrouded in mystery for some reason. So on this particular graphic, it says January 13th. The movie did not come out on January 13th. But I also cannot find a graphic online or like anything released by the studio or anything that actually has the correct release date on it. Like I can't find anything.
Different times at different places.
Yeah. So what I'm guessing happened is that January 13th is the full launch of the movie, or full release. And there was a soft release on December 30th so that they could be considered for awards within the 2022 calendar year.
Yeah.
So on December 30th, it did come out, and there were some showings in my area, and I had wanted to see it. And we did a review of, or a reaction to the trailer, and it was something that I wanted to see, and it, like I said in the top 10, it probably could have made it on my list. Now I'll save the answer of whether or not it could have made it on my list for later in the video, but I will say that I was impressed by a certain somebody. So, A Man Called Otto is a movie based off of, so it's based off of a book called A Man Called Ove, which there's also a feature film made based off of that book called A Man Called Ove. Yep. It's a Swedish book, I believe.
Yeah.
And this is the American rendition, I guess you could call it, right? Came out on December 30th, I'm guessing there's a wide release on January 13th. And yeah, it was... We're going to do our take on it.
Yep.
Traditional fashion, spoiler-free content first, then we'll dive into some scores, and then get into spoilers. So, spoiler-free, I will say this, and I've been somewhat critical of Tom Hanks as of late, because he's been in a lot of films recently, and when a actor saturates the market with films, sometimes I get a little turned off to him because I'm just constantly seeing them, right? However, I do think that Tom Hanks' performance in this movie was exceptional. And I do think that because it was to me, it was such an out of character, or out of norm character for Tom Hanks to play, it was even more interesting to see him play it. And I got lost within his character even more. Like at some point during the movie, it transitioned from me watching Tom Hanks play this character to watching this character in this story. And it's hard to do that when you have a lot of movies out, when you've saturated the market as of late. So kudos to you, Tom Hanks, for yet another incredible performance. And I will give credit where credit is due because of my somewhat critical statements as of late. Yeah. But what did you think of A Man Called Otto, Taylor? Spoiler free.
I love this movie.
You just watched it today, right?
Yeah.
Yeah. I watched it last night, right? Did I watch it last night?
I think so, yeah.
Yeah, last night. I watched it last night.
Yeah. But I love this movie. I do find it interesting. I always feel hesitant bringing up a Tom Hanks movie to you because I know you kind of just don't like seeing him so much.
It's not that I don't like Tom Hanks, because a lot of my classic favorite movies are Tom Hanks films, like Forrest Gump and Saving Private Ryan. But it's just come on, man. You're in everything.
Look,
he had a lot of movies recently.
Yeah, so just know that I love Tom Hanks. Yes. And for me personally, he's goated as one of the greatest actors. He's also produced and directed some amazing things. Yeah. And some of them are my most favorite of all times. But I will say it's interesting that you enjoyed his role in this, thinking that it was out of the box for him, because for me personally, Tom Hanks is amazing because he always plays an unusual and very difficult character to play in a lot of his movies. Like if you really sit down and think about a lot of the films that he's done, it's such a weird role that most people would just say hell no to taking that.
Right. Someone like Forrest Gump or someone like Mr.
Castaway,
Rogers.
Yeah. Big, like, how are you going to, I mean, just as an example, like Castaway, how do you make a movie so interesting that you're just a solo dude stranded on an island befriending this fucking volleyball and becoming such an icon that I just want to say, like, literally when we have people transferred to new stations, we all sign a volleyball because of how big of a movie that was.
Interesting. Okay. Yeah, no, you do make a good point that a lot of Tom Hanks roles are out of the box roles. I guess I'm just so used to Tom Hanks playing a lively and good-hearted and fun character.
Yeah, I mean, he does a lot of that, like
that, especially as of late, because he played Pinocchio's father, right, in Disney's Pinocchio.
But in Elvis, he was a dick.
Yeah, that is true. Yeah,
a really big douche.
Yeah, I don't know. I guess it's just one of those guys for me that, like, I respect him, and I cannot refute the fact that he is one of the greatest actors of all time. I can't dispute that. But just for some reason, whenever I see him in a film, I'm like, man, like, you've already had so many incredible performances. Like, let somebody else do something, man. Jeez.
And I guess, a little bit I can kind of understand that. But honestly, if everybody else did the same thing that I loved, I'd be all for it.
Sure. Yeah. I mean, there are, like, I guess it's just a better version or the better side of somebody like The Rock, right? That has a role in, like, all these different movies, but he plays the same thing all the time.
Yeah, for the most part.
So, like, it's like, we like The Rock somewhat. Some of his stuff is cool, but when you see it all the time, it loses its mojo. But for someone like Tom Hanks that's able to portray a wide variety of characters, despite seeing him all the time, we still love him. So it's kind of like, you don't really follow football life, but Tom Brady is the greatest quarterback of all time.
Yeah, I mean, I know enough.
Even though a lot of people don't really like Tom Brady because he's, had a history of being a douchebag and stuff.
Yeah, which I'm familiar enough to
know. Yeah. So I think it's kind of it's funny that both first name is Tom. Maybe there's just something about people named Tom, man, that I just don't like. No, but I did think his performance in this movie was incredible and probably deserves consideration for awards and stuff.
Yeah.
And last thing that I'll say before we dive into some scores and into the spoilers, and I want to forewarn you guys that it's actually, you know what? I'll save that because it is kind of a spoiler in and of itself. So yeah, we'll dive into scores next. All right. Taylor, what is your score for A Man Called Otto?
I'm going to give this movie a 9.
Wow. All right. 9. And follow-up question to that, Taylor. Had you have watched this movie before we completed our list for top 10 movies of 2022, would this movie have made your list for top 10?
I was going to save this for the end, but there's actually 2 movies. This is one of them that I would absolutely throw into my top 10 for last year.
And I'm guessing the other is Clerks 3.
Yes.
Yeah, which was one of the movies that you said you had wanted to watch.
Yeah. But this was one of them too, but I just didn't repeat it because you already said it.
Yeah. So for me, ladies and gentlemen, for a score, I will admit that there are some issues that I have with the movie. Just a few, and they're not like groundbreaking or anything, or but I do have a few issues. So I'm gonna give this movie a strong 8. Strong 8. And as far as whether or not it would have made it on my top 10, I don't know. I think it probably would have made it on the list of movies to consider for my top 10, and probably would have been a contender for like the bottom 5, maybe bottom 3 of the top 10. But I don't know. I think it might have fell victim to the same thing that I said during our Strange World reaction or video, that because I had watched it, would have had to have watched it so close to creating the list that I would have been afraid to put it on there because of like the time. You know?
Yeah, which is totally fair.
Yeah, so I might have fell victim to that, just like Strange World fell victim to that. So, yeah, I don't know that it would have made my top 10, but I did really enjoy it, and it was a fun movie. So, my score is an 8. Your score is a 9. Really high scores, ladies and gentlemen. I do recommend that you go and watch this movie. I do recommend that you see it in the theater, enjoy it, and pay attention, because I think there's a lot of themes and messages that this movie talks about and portrays that are important to listen to. So, yeah. You feel different? Think that people should not watch this movie?
No, I think it's highly recommend it. And I mean, I agree with everything you just said. Like, it's got a lot of really great things. I actually think not just Tom Hanks, but I actually enjoyed everybody's performance in this movie.
That is true. I off the top of my head, I don't think that there really was a bad performance.
Which is, I feel like, unusual.
Yeah, because usually there's like a few people that you can pick out, like, that's kind of subpar. But the only person that like kind of comes to the top of my head, maybe a little bit, is the real estate dude.
Yeah, I was gonna say if there's anybody that comes to mind, it's the guy.
But I think they purposely made him extra.
Because he's just an idiot.
Yeah. All right, ladies and gentlemen, let's dive into some spoilers. This is your official
spoiler alert.
All right, so I do want to touch on this and just kind of get it out of the way, because it's a major part of the movie, and it actually like holds pretty close place in my heart. If you've read the book or if you know the story of this movie, unfortunately, the premise of this movie is that Otto, the character that Tom Hanks plays, is trying to kill himself to join his late wife, and a lot of the movie revolves around him trying to and failed attempts. And so I just want to touch on it real quick, because unfortunately through my occupation I've had to deal with situations very, very, very similar to this, and so it holds a special place in my heart. And I actually, like, because I knew nothing about this story before I watched the movie, and so when I was watching it, and in the beginning of the movie, when he like dresses up nicely and then goes to the store, buys some rope, buys a hook, and then when he goes home and he shuts off his power and his phone line, like I pretty much knew immediately. I was like, oh my God, I even leaned over to the person that was watching with me, and it was like, it's really sad that I know about what's about to happen.
Yeah, I mean, honestly, like, just the rope in the beginning kind of like is the first,
it's the first clue. And when I watched it, I was like, all right, I mean, I know what that could be used for, but there's also a lot of other uses that the rope could be used for.
Yeah, but I mean, so who gets 5 feet of rope?
Yeah. So that, I was like, all right, I'm holding out hope, because I didn't know what the story was about. But then, like, when I watched him turn off his power and stuff, I was like, oh, yeah, I know what's about to happen. And I've unfortunately experienced that firsthand, very, like, shockingly similar story to this. So I just want to say real quick that suicide is never the answer. And if at any point any of you guys are feeling down, or feel like even remotely deciding to take your own life, I really encourage you guys to reach out to I'm sure there's a lot of local resources where you are, but reach out to family, reach out to friends, and if you need to, reach out to us.
Yeah, somebody.
Just reach out and speak to somebody, because I promise you that no matter how dark your life is, no matter where you are, I promise you that there is someone in this world that loves you and cares about you. And if you just reach out to somebody, they will help you find that person. Okay? So please, 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 suicide is never the answer. So I just wanted to talk about that real quick, because I think it's important that we touch on that, especially since it's such a major part of this movie.
Yeah.
Now that we have the sad stuff out of the way, let's talk about some of the good stuff. The movie itself, like, is really sad for a long time. Actually, it's kind of sad throughout the entire movie because it does end, unfortunately, with Otto's death, and but it's like a good thing because we see him in the beginning of the movie trying to take his own life. But then we watch him slowly learn that there's more to live for, and that, and then in the end, unfortunately, he still ends up dying, but it's just because it was his time to go at that time.
Yeah.
Basically, Otto's life was saved by a bunch of random things happening at the opportune moment.
Yeah.
His neighbors moved in, Marisol and Tommy, I believe is the husband's name.
Yeah.
Right. They move in, and unfortunately, when he's hanging himself and the rope breaks and he falls, and then he watches Tommy try to back up a trailer. And it's just funny because, like, to me, I don't think there's a lot of people out there in this world, especially like our generation and younger, that actually know how to back up a trailer.
Yeah. There's a lot of things in this movie that are very true.
Yeah. So it's just funny to me because I'm like, yeah, that tracks. Accurate, like, I know how to back up a trailer because I've done it before.
But a lot of, I would say majority of people don't have to.
Right.
So they
it's
just
not a thing that a lot of people do anymore.
Yeah.
So it's just funny that he was so open arms about it.
He was struggling.
That's our introduction to this couple of Tommy and Marisol. They have 2 young daughters and one on the way. Marisol is pregnant, and they're really
a son.
Yeah, pregnant with a son. And they're really what saved Otto. Them coming to the neighborhood is what saved Otto, because prior to that, Otto was this cold, shut off man that was bitter towards the world because of the unfortunate hand that he was dealt. And we see through flashbacks and conversations that he has with certain people that he tried to join the army, couldn't join the army because he has a heart defect. And then he met his wife, and they fell in love, and it was an amazing love story. And then his wife got pregnant, and unfortunately they lost their child. And so now he's just bitter at the world. And I completely understand, to be honest. Like, I get it. I don't know what I would do if I lost my family. So I understand it, but he like does good things, but with such bitterness that it seems bad. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Like, he's like a neighborhood watch kind of guy. Like, he goes around and makes sure that trash is picked up and dogs aren't pooping and peeing where they shouldn't be pooping and peeing, and that the gate is closed because it's not a public road. I'm really glad that they kept it in there, but that whole scene with the delivery driver.
So this actually happens very early in the movie.
Yeah.
I love it still, even though it wasn't the trailer.
Yeah.
Because it's a tongue-in-cheek reference to his time with FedEx with Castaway and stuff.
Yeah.
Like, he has I don't know what you call, like, semi-movie relationship with, playing with FedEx and working for them and stuff, that they reference this. We're like, hey, I don't have problems with the guys with the white trucks, and I don't mean that racially.
Yeah. So as a person that works in that industry yourself, do you ever run into these situations where, like, people will chase you out of an area because your truck isn't supposed to be there, or they get upset because you park in front of their garage or whatever?
So this scene is funny because of that reason,
right?
On multiple levels, because I guarantee you, even besides the fact that this movie is like just trying to poke fun at UPS, a FedEx driver is doing the same thing. 100%. We don't care.
That's funny. I would imagine that there's a lot of people that get upset because, to be honest, there's been multiple times where people got upset where we parked our fire truck. So
that probably happens more so than people get pissed off at us. And the only reason is because we're bringing their stuff.
And they know that you're like going to be there for a max of like 5 minutes or so.
Nah, just 5 minutes, like 30 seconds.
Yeah. So I'm not surprised that they do that to you. But I thought that scene was really fun.
It definitely happens though.
This movie does have a really good it does a really good job of portraying a very, very sad story, but adding enough comedy and liveliness to it through the characters of Marisol and Tommy and their kids, that it's not just a
overwhelming amount of sadness.
Like they even do it with like visuals, right? Like Otto is always dressed in like dark blue and gray, and he's dressed like he is right here in this shot, or he's dressed in like a coat and tie, but still very darkly colored. And Marisol is always in this like vibrant red or maroon, and their kids are always in like pink and white and whatnot. And it's a very visual representation of that play on emotions, and I really loved that, and I picked up on that pretty quickly. I thought that was really cool. Was there anything that you didn't particularly like about this movie? So like, I guess my question is, why a 9 instead of a 10?
I mean, honestly, like the only reason it's not a 10 is because I'm not so attached to everybody, because it's like a new story to me that I feel that strongly about it. But there wasn't really anything that bothered me. In fact, I like a lot of the things that happen, especially with one of the things we just talked about in another movie. I think this is another representation which I liked of it, where it's not forced or anything in any way, and it actually makes Tom Hanks' character Otto even better as a person. And I don't know if this sounds weird, but like Otto's character kind of feels like somewhat like me, and so I can kind of relate to like little things that he does. And
are you telling me you're a sad old man that just walks around his...
I'm not old, but I feel old sometimes. And I feel like I give off the impression somewhat like him, maybe not as extreme, but similar enough that I could relate to him.
Yeah.
And then I just love like all the dynamics between all the different neighbors and stuff he had, and just his everyday life.
So to clarify what you're talking about, for those of you guys that haven't seen this movie yet, Taylor is talking about a character named Malcolm, who is a young, well, in this movie he's a young transgender male, and he is like he's not a paper delivery boy, because what he delivers isn't the paper. He does like advertisements or adverts and whatnot. And so he's not really a character that's wanted in the area, because he's throwing stuff on people's lawns that nobody really wants. And so there's an interaction between him and Otto, where Otto catches him. He's like, "Hey man, like, what are you doing? Like, why can't you get a real job?" This and that. And so to your point, I am kind of like, I do feel a little bit caught off guard with the whole transgender thing. And I think it's more so of a storytelling aspect of it, not necessarily that there's these gender identity thing within the story, because we did look it up and I wanted to make sure. But in the original story in the book, A Man Called Otto, there is a gay character in that story that is, I don't think they have the exact same character like storyline or whatnot, but it is like,
it plays to a similar effect.
Right. And so like it's not like they're interjecting this out of the blue and that it was never in this and it was just some woke idea. But as far as storytelling goes, I think that a better way to have done it would, for them to have the interaction initially in the street around the bike, and that interaction be centered around the fact that that kid was a young kid just trying to make it in the world, because he explains to Otto that I have 3 jobs. I'm just trying to make money. I'm just trying to, survive. Yeah. And that's what gets Otto off his back, because he's like, oh, like, oh, all right, you're just trying to do well for yourself. And then he goes into the fact that he's transgender, and that even further makes Otto kind of retreat his his bitterness. But I think what could have been better as a storytelling aspect was to save the transgender part for later in the movie when we see the character return and knock on Otto's door, asking him for help and a place to stay. And at that point, I think there would have been more. It would have been more, not rewarding, but like the gravity of the situation would have been escalated, because that's the first time that we're finding out that he's transgender and that his father kicked him out of his house for being transgender. So, like, I don't really have a problem with the fact that it's in there. I just think that the story could have been told a little bit better, and wouldn't have been so, like I wasn't expecting it, and I was just like, whoa, all right, that's in here. Okay, cool.
Yeah, I mean, I think that'd be fine telling it that way. I don't mind it the way it is, because I've literally known people that have had this happen in their life where they're gay or whatever, and their family literally just disowned them.
They just
so I think it's totally fine, because I mean, as much as like I don't like including like real world things, because this is just about this man's life.
Yeah.
And it's just a kid on the street. Like, I would fully expect for somebody that has that, orientation or whatever, to talk about that if they have a lot of problems, because that happens all the time.
That's fair. Well,
but I mean, I think it would have been fine the way you were saying as well. It's just, I don't have a problem either way.
Yeah, I mean, when I got out of the movie, my initial reaction to it was, okay, I need to know whether or not the whole sexual orientation and whatnot was in the story to begin with. And then once I found out that it is, then I didn't have a problem with it, because my thing has always been, if you guys have, followed me on this channel, my thing has always been that I hate when people include it where it wasn't to begin with. You know what I mean? Yeah. So, once I found out that there was like sexual identity or that within the story already, then like I don't mind it. It's fine. I guess I just, like, for me, I just had this different idea of how it could have been told differently, and it would have been a bigger moment at the end when he did come and ask for help.
Yeah.
But
I guess to a not that big of an extent that like that might actually also be like maybe more or also offensive, because then it's just like saying that like it's only using it as like a what you call some kind of like a emotional guilt trip, kind of thing. Because the reason I liked it is like it's not like he's just like, oh hey, like here's my gay friend or whatever, like we're lovers, or like, he's literally just like, hey, like I'm sorry, like I'm just trying to live my life. I've been dealing with a lot of stuff, and then this is one of the reasons.
Yeah.
Like you said, he has like multiple jobs, and just like, yeah, I'm also trans, so like I a lot of people give me problems for that too. And it's not, it doesn't seem to me like too much. So I enjoyed that fact. It just sounds like a person that's just
dealing with a lot of issues. Yeah. No, you're all right. And I could see, now that we kind of fleshed the idea out a little bit more, that I could see how some people may perceive it as almost like a guilt trip kind of thing if they had waited till the end. But like, oh, can I have a place to stay? And then he was like, no, but I'm trans, and my father kicked me out.
And then he'd be like, oh, fine.
Fine. Yeah. I could see that too.
Yeah, I don't know. I'm just...
No. That's why we have this show, right? This is why we do this, is so that we can talk about these things and we can flesh these ideas out. And I'm more than willing to be like, yeah, you know what? Now that we talked about it and fleshed it out, I don't think it's a good idea that they should wait till the end. So
yeah. I mean, I don't know. It's like I said, to me, it sounds like it still could work. I'm just saying.
Yeah, they probably could make it work, but no, you're right, and it's something that I didn't consider initially. So yeah. All right. Another topic that I wanted to just bring up that was funny to lighten the mood a little bit was the whole dynamic between him and what's the friend's name? Charles? Is that his name? The African American friend that of Otto's that is
Oh, like longtime friend?
Yeah, Ruben.
I loved Ruben.
Dude, the like montage of them getting cars and like showing each other cars.
But I'm like,
it's so funny to me.
It's like I don't relate to what the cars are talking about. Like they're those companies, but I understand the point of it.
So funny.
It's like, hey, check out my car. It's a Chevy. Check out my car. It's a Ford.
Otto is a Chevy guy, and Charles is a Ford guy, and so they're always trying to one up each other and show like, oh, this is why Chevy is better. This is why Ford is better.
Well, I love that at the beginning when they first become neighbors. Yeah, it's just like, hey, we love cars. Let's do this car thing, and then eventually
it turns into, like, oh, I'm a Ford guy. You're a Chevy guy. Like, whoa. And it's funny that Otto won't even say the word. He has to spell it because he's just so like. It's funny because we relate to that because we're Jeep people. Like we like Jeeps a lot, and there's like here in Hawaii specifically, there's a friendly rivalry between Jeeps and Toyotas, right? So like if you went out and bought a Toyota, I'd be like, what the hell, man? Like
not naming anybody.
Yeah.
But you know who you are.
Yeah, you do. Yeah. Can't really be mad at you because you're broken right now.
Yeah, you can't mess up. Okay.
But so yeah, it's just kind of I can relate to it. It's really funny. And then the funniest part about it,
in fact, get a Toyota.
Ruben ends up buying a Toyota, and he's like, gotta change with the times, man.
Because he's like, one day I decided enough is enough. He's like, hey, you know what? My wife
bury the hatchet.
And let's bury the hatchet. And he sets it down. He's like, you want to check out my new car? Sure, let's go look at your new car. Opens up the fucking garage door, and it's Toyota. He's like,
it's a Toyota Celica. I think it was the GT2. And he's like, and it's an automatic. And Otto's just like, nope, not doing this. Yeah, it was great. I thought it was hilarious, and really just kind of adds to the character of Otto. But in the end, ladies and gentlemen, as we go through this movie, we learn more and more about Otto. We learn more and more about why he is the way he is, and we also watch Marisol, Tommy, some of the other neighbors, Jimmy, which is this guy right here on the right side, which I thought was just another hilarious person and character. He's always walking around like this with his high stepping, and it's really funny. And he's just trying to be fit and take care of himself. But we watch all of them slowly wear down on Otto and show him what it means to live and love again. And one thing I do want to bring up, and it's part of the reason why I didn't give this movie a higher score, was I understand that majority of his bitterness comes from the fact that he lost his wife and his unborn child. And I get that that's where a lot of his character comes from. But I think that the fact that we see him act the way he is now, we see him act the way he did like with Ruben and stuff, but then like when they show the very early on type of flashbacks, the young flashbacks, you don't see the same guy. Like you see a very like I don't really know how to characterize it, but he's not as rigid and like strong-headed, if that makes sense. Like he's very kind of whimsical and just like as a really young guy. I know people change over time, but like there's a little bit of like continuity issues I had with his character throughout the years as the flashbacks were shown, if that makes sense.
Yeah, and this might be kind of part of like my understanding being different, because to me they actually are the same person. I know that he goes through like the loss of his wife and his kid, and then the thing that kind of gets glossed over is like him getting rejected from the army. I know that's not the focus of this movie.
No, but
I mean, I know that you can relate to this at a different extent. That all of that combined together, like that's a lot of stuff to deal with.
And
I know his younger version, like he it seems a lot different, but if you really think about what he does, even now as his like grumpy old self, it's really not that different. Like he doesn't do anything mean. It's sure it might come off as seeming like an asshole,
right?
But he's actually not doing anything bad, and he still saves a man's life,
right?
Like, so to me, it feels the same. It's just now he has like a little bit of an edge on him because of everything he went through, but he's still fundamentally the same person to me. But I don't know. That's just me.
No. I think maybe it's just a different interpretation of what we saw, I guess. Because I do think you're right as far as like his fundamental, like values and beliefs and stuff are the same. But I think I was more talking about like mannerisms and like physical characteristics and the way he does things, and not necessarily the way he looks, because that obviously changes all like throughout time. But just like I don't want to like make this comparison because it may seem like I'm trying to talk about the fact that like he's skinny, and when he was young he wasn't necessarily skinny.
Yeah.
But like, if I were to equate him as he is during the present day story, he's very square and edgy, right? Like you said. But in the beginning, he's like very rounded and just kind of, yeah, I don't know how to explain it without sounding like a complete asshole. But I'm just more talking about like his mannerisms and the way he goes about doing things. So,
yeah.
But again, it's a very minor thing. It's not. I don't think it really hurts the story that much, which is why I still really enjoyed the story or enjoyed the movie. But it's just something I picked up on as I was watching the flashbacks. Is I felt like I was watching somebody a little too far different than who he was in the present day. But that may just be me. I don't know.
I mean, I think it's fair.
Yeah. What did you think about the whole frick? I have a picture of it. I forgot I have a picture of it. This scene. The hospital scene.
This is one of many scenes that are kind of similar in like concept, I guess. I thought it was hilarious.
Yeah, I was cracking up the whole time, mostly because I hate clowns.
Oh, and when so, he comes in, I'm like, yeah, first of all, you're a clown. Back off.
Yeah, like, you're kind of a freaky looking clown too.
Exactly.
Like
you're not even like a typical.
Yeah.
Let's have fun, kids. I guess.
You
kind of like look like a creep in a clown costume.
Yeah,
just the way freaky. He's like,
hey.
Yeah, I don't know. It seems a little extra for a clown, but.
I just thought it was funny because he acts like a child in this scene, and it's like kind of culminates in a line that he says that I really laughed at like hard. It was because it's something that I did as a child all the time, but the officers are like, "Why did you hit him?" And he's like, "I didn't hit him." And they're like, "No, you definitely hit him." And I was laughing so hard because I was just like, yeah, I used to say that all the time about like, hey, my brothers and sisters and stuff. It just really caught me. I was like, yeah, that's freaking hilarious. Yeah, acting like a child. But it's all over this quarter, right? That he he told the clown, you can use this for your magic trick, but I want it back. And the quarter holds very sentimental value because when he first met his wife, he needed money for a train ticket, and she gave him money, and that was the leftover quarter from his wife. And now that she's gone, it just, it's a representation of his wife, and he carries it with him wherever he goes. And it's a 1964 quarter.
Yep, 1964.
And so it's made out of pure silver. And the clown gave him back a quarter, but it wasn't his quarter. He switched it out on him. And to the clown, I mean, he doesn't know, he doesn't get it, but Otto was very like, give me my quarterback.
Yeah, this I will say in general, this scene, it's another one of those fuck around and find out. Yeah. Like all he had to do was give back his quarter, and that would have been the end of it. But instead, he decided to be kind of an asshole and make fun of him,
right?
Instead of just giving back his quarter.
Yeah, yeah. But this is kind of indicative of just the way that this story goes, right? Otto is in a situation that you wouldn't really expect to find him. right? He's essentially babysitting a couple kids that are just his neighbors. He has no relation to them.
They're super funny too.
Yeah, he's hilarious. OTTO. But he's babysitting them, and then he has to deal with this clown who is the exact opposite, like, kind of character that he is. And then it ends up being funny, but also sad at the same time because it's talking about a quarter from his dead wife. But then it also just kind of peels back one more layer of Otto till we finally get to his core. And by the end of the movie, we get to see Otto as this grandfather type of character to these two kids and the eventual son that's born. I think they named him Marco.
Yeah.
Right? The son. Be honest, I was kind of expecting them to name him Otto, but I'm glad that they didn't.
Might have been a little too much.
Well, that's why I was like, please don't name him Otto, because that might just be a little much.
I don't think he would have liked that either.
But something I wanted to talk about because it got me super emotional and was the closest point at which I almost cried, because I don't cry.
Yeah, real men don't cry.
Yeah. But when he gave Marisol and Tommy the rocking crib that he built for his own son, I was like, huh. Yeah. I had to do that achoo, wipe my nose, because that was really
This
really
movie's very sad.
Yeah, it is very sad. But it's a beautiful story about somebody who's given up on everything, and is ready to go and actually tries on multiple occasions, but for some reason, every time he tries, something happens that prevents him from completing his task, because at the end of the day, he's just got too big of a heart.
Literally.
Yeah. I thought you might get that. And unfortunately, what Otto ends up dying from is a heart condition where his heart is just too big. It's what prevented him from joining the military, and what ultimately killed him. And contrary to what people might think, an enlarged heart is actually very bad. So, yeah, unfortunately, that's what he died from. But he made such an impact on Marisol and the kids and Tommy and Jimmy, and him saving Ruben and I don't remember Ruben's wife's name, but saving them from being pushed out of their house by the real estate company and whatnot. Anita. It was great, and it was really heartwarming to watch.
Yeah. And
despite it ending on Otto's death, it just had such a sense of fulfillment, and I felt rewarded for watching it.
I will say this movie to me personally was like, a lot of things are very predictable.
Yeah.
But at the end of the entire thing, I was very satisfied.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, yeah, there wasn't really any like crazy twists and turns that, like, caught you off guard, really. It's more so like, oh, he's putting that saran wrap up so he can shoot himself in the head and not make his house super dirty.
Yeah, I mean, there's a lot of little details that, like, whenever it has like something dark, they do they do enough to make it.
They dwell on it just enough to like really hit it home.
But at the same time, like, that's him putting up all the plastic.
Right.
Like, that's funny. Like, because most people they're like, why would you even care or think about that?
Yeah, I don't know that funny is the right word, but I think it's like there's a deeper meaning to it, right? Because he's putting it up so that whoever has to deal with him doesn't have a hard time or has less of a job to do, and it protects the house because that's all he has left.
Yeah. Because even with his clothes, he was like, initially he was like, oh, how do I want to look? But then at least what I took from it was, well, somebody's going to cut this off of me, so I'm just going to not wear anything.
Yeah. Well, I think that also was kind of him being like, all right, what do I want to wear to go meet my wife in the afterlife, But yeah. Very sad.
Yeah,
I'm really sad right now. But it was a good movie. I really enjoyed it. I think that you guys would really enjoy it, ladies and gentlemen.
Probably gonna cry.
Yeah, I don't know if this is
the whole theater was crying.
I don't know if it's better to go into this movie without knowing anything, or at least be slightly prepared for the fact that it's a movie about suicide. You know,
I mean, I feel like you can just go into it
head first.
Yeah.
All right. Yeah.
But yeah, I mean, it's sad. There's it's a big thing. I do like that they in the credits they have the whole message and stuff.
Right.
Kind of like how we had at the beginning.
Yeah. I'm curious to know what you guys thought about this movie and what you guys thought about the story. Let us know down in the comments below what you thought of Tom Hanks' performance. And maybe there might have been some other supporting cast members that have some award-winning performances as well. Because I think Marisol's performance was pretty incredible.
Yeah, she was really, really good.
And I don't know that she would be considered a lead, like a female lead. But her performance was pretty incredible. From everything. But yeah, let us know what you guys thought in the comments down below. We appreciate you guys being here. And like I said in the beginning of this video, please, if you have any thoughts at all, please reach out to somebody. Doesn't have to be anybody in particular. Can be us, can be the National Suicide Hotline, can be anybody. But please reach out to somebody, talk to somebody, because I promise you that there's somebody out there that loves you. And if you really think there's nobody out there that loves you,
we love you.
We love you. And we appreciate you being here, watching us, and joining us for this episode. So, ladies and gentlemen, please like, subscribe, comment, share with a friend. Check out our social media links down in the description below. Appreciate you. Love you. Catch you guys in the next episode.